For too long, we've been led to believe that communism is a thing of the past. But the truth is, communism is alive. It's here, and it's infiltrating every aspect of American life. Introducing the Anti-Communist Manifesto by Jesse Kelly, the practical guide for patriots ready to defend our nation from its most dangerous enemy. Discover the shocking extent of communist infiltration in our education system, their alliance with American corporations, and the twisted truth behind environmentalism. This eye-opening book exposes the true face of communism and empowers you to fight back. Join the fight for freedom. The Anti-Communist Manifesto, a new must-read book from Jesse Kelly. Get your copy today at jessekellybook.com or wherever books are sold.
I still can't believe how scary that guy's voice is. It's awesome. Anyway, today is the day. The day the Anti-Communist Manifesto is available for all. You can order it online. It's at all your bookstores. It's selling like wildfire, so thank you for that. So let's discuss something real quick. By the way, jessekellybook.com is where you can order it online. It's where you can find out about the book tour. It's where you can get your AC pin, your anti-communist pin. We're beginning an anti-communist community. You do all that at jessekellybook.com, but let's discuss something real quick. Anti-communism, anti-communist. Why do we talk about that? What's the point of all that? One, let's focus on what communism is first. Remember this, and I talk about this extensively in the book. Communism is not what the dictionary definition is. It's not about the workers, or it's nothing to do with any of that at all. That's why communism has taken on a different form every country where it's been. For China's communism, did you know it looked radically different than the communism in the Soviet Union? So it started in the Soviet Union, and again, I talk about this, where the urban poor were really malcontented. They were really unhappy for many valid reasons. The communists, as they were whipping up the revolution in the Soviet Union, they focused on the urban poor because the urban poor were the malcontents in the society, and you can use people's bitterness to destroy things you want destroyed and to give yourself power. So boom, Soviet Union, urban poor. China starts picking up on this communism thing, starts really catching on in certain circles there. And they're working with the Soviet Union, Lenin and Stalin and these guys. So they're working with guys like Mao in China. And Mao starts to have some conflicts with the Soviet communists. Why? Because the Soviet communists were telling Mao, hey, focus on the urban poor. You got to focus on those urban poor. And Mao said, what? No, you don't understand China. We don't have mass amounts of malcontented urban poor here. Our rural poor, those are the malcontents. So that's where we need to go. So the communists in China found a different group of malcontents. Cambodia looked totally different than all the rest of them. America, and most of the West, this isn't unique to America, it looks radically different here than it did there. Why? Because we have different malcontents. And the communists in the 60s and 70s, they actually wrote this down that they needed to make a shift from all this worker stuff. It was not catching on in the West to their frustration. They had to make a shift. So where do you shift? Well, you just find people's malcontents. What are the fingers of America's communist fist? What are they really? And these are all laid out in the book in the historical context of them. What are the fingers of the fist? The climate change nutters, the feminists, the, quote, civil rights, Black Lives Matter types, of course, the LGBTQ. These are all fingers of America's communist fist. What do they all have in common? These were the malcontents in our society. The communism is nothing more than a religion that's the search for any society's malcontents. You search for them, you find them, you use their bitterness to burn society down. That's all communism is. 100 years from now, it'll look totally different than it does here today. So why anti-communism? There's 1,000 of these books, right? Everybody writes a book now of conservatism and libertarianism and nationalism and neoconservative. Why anti-communism? What is the point of that? What am I saying? Well, what I'm saying is we're up against a religion of death and destruction. It is a death cult. And unless they are stopped, Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. And to be honest, I find many of these squabbles on the various factions on the right, I find them to be laughable, not because they're not important arguments to have, but because these are pointless arguments to have while the communist has taken over every single institution. These squabbles people have on the right, it's you and I arguing over which color we want to paint the walls while a murderous gang of thugs is kicking down the front door to murder both of us. Why are we arguing about the wall paint? They must be stopped first. Once they are stopped, then we can come back and we can have a knockdown drag out about the wall paint. But until they are stopped, nothing else matters. Anti-communism is all that matters. Why do I speak like that? Well, because I understand history. And you'll read about this in the Anti-Communist Manifesto. Things like 1.7 million dead in Lenin's concentration camps. You know them as gulags. 18 million of those were slave labor camps. Oh, and did I mention, it wasn't just a bunch of murderers and rapists in those camps. It was political prisoners. Can you imagine living in a country where the political party in charge would lock up its political opponents? January 6th, Trump. Could you imagine living in a country like that? Did you know that Joseph Stalin, that he starved millions of people to death in Ukraine? It's known as the Holodomor. You can read about that in the book as well. How many millions of people? Oh, I don't know. Might be 2 million. Might be 10 million. Nobody knows. Why? Because they starved to death in their beds. Families drawing straws to see which family member they would kill and eat that day. That's not something out of the movies. That's what communists have done. Dogs roaming the streets with an arm in their mouth from a hastily buried body. Nobody knows how many the communists killed in Ukraine because all the mass graves covered it up. It was such a disaster, the numbers can never and will never be known. Did you know that Mao's CCP, they outlawed private farming? They decided these small businesses needed to be a thing of the past. Instead, we're going to do a gigantic, basically, we're going to nationalize the farming industry. All of you gather together on this communal farm. Except when everyone gathered together on the communal farm, they weren't producing. Not everybody was. I mean, sure, the young, strong men were, but gosh, these pregnant women and the kids and the old people, they're kind of a burden. Hey, let's just kill them or let them starve to death. I won't even go into the details of what they did at Pest prison. I won't even tell you about Cambodia. You can learn about that in the Anti-Communist Manifesto, where they had 15-year-olds beating people to death by the million. 25% of Cambodia's population gone in 4 years. Why do I discuss anti-communism so passionately? Why am I an anti-communist, not a conservative or anything else these people call? Because I understand nothing else matters. Nothing, unless these people are defeated. What is coming for America very, very quickly is more horrific than you have ever seen a movie about, more horrific than you can imagine, unless these people are stopped. That's why I write chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter about various parts of American communism. From corporate communism, I write about the education system in this country. I write about the LGBTQ mob. Don't think the Black Lives Matter civil rights hustlers got out. Antifa. Did you know that Antifa, today's Antifa, do you know they draw a direct connection between the communist Antifa that was taking place in Weimar, Germany before World War II? And did you know in Weimar, Germany before World War II, they called themselves Antifa? These are the kind of tidbits that are here in the book. We will talk about cultural destruction in the book. That's chapter 2, by the way, if you want a little preview. Cultural destruction. Why do they rename military bases? Is it because they're really passionate about slavery? They're very protective of black people. Just passionate about human rights. Is that why they remake your street names, remake your military bases, tear down monuments? I've got news for you. That has nothing to do with it whatsoever. You see, the communist destroys your monuments, your history, because the communist is out to destroy you. If you want to hear all this laid out in detail, not only the history of it, all kinds of history, where we're at today, how to fight back against it, go to jessekellybook.com and purchase the Anti-Communist Manifesto today.
The Anti-Communist Manifesto, a new must-read book from Jesse Kelly. Get your copy today at jessekellybook.com or wherever books are sold.